Last year I retired. I could no longer function. It was 20 years of pain and medication that I've been through, and I've just been like a steamroller, pushing myself, and my body could no longer function. And I started looking at alternative products, and the stem cell patches was one of them. So I am blessed. I really am, because in January this year, I spoke to the Lord and I said, at least I had 20 years. At least I had 20 years of spreading the word. At least I had 20 years of speaking. At least I've had 20 years. Let me now not come to you and say, oh, why? So I am really blessed and honored to be here today. Tonight is a very big night for me. The Lord knows that if He brings me out of retirement, I will speak the truth. And I will tell everybody what happened to me when I was 18 years old. The Lord knew if He could just get me out of that bed where I can no longer walk, where my husband has to bath me, if He can just raise me up out of there, I will stand up and I'll be a warrior and I'll speak. I don't care how much pain it causes me. I will tell everybody what happened so that other people can understand the love that God has for them. Because I want others to learn, and I want others to understand the God we serve. When I was 18 years old, I was involved in a motor vehicle accident. It was an accident that not only broke me, but it broke my trust in people, in life, and in society. It forced me to grow up. I was thrown into a world full of hate and pain, exposed to trauma that no one should be exposed to. I went out one night with friends, 10 o'clock in the evening. I was in bed, and they called and they said, listen here, Ruanda, do you want to come with? We're going to watch the races, motor vehicle races. And I said, sure, why not? And I got up out of bed and I kissed my mom goodbye and I said, I'll be back now. I'll be back in 2-3 hours. I never knew that I'll not see my mom again. I kissed my mom goodbye and I left. We went to the races and it was such a cold night. It was raining. The wind was blowing. It was in Cape Town, Western Cape. It was so cold, but we still endured the weather. And we went. It was a couple of kilometers out of town. And as we stood there looking at all the cars, people showed up. I recognized them. It was friends. It was friends that we were no longer friends with. All I knew at that stage was the guys said that we are no longer friends with them because they are a bad influence. And I said, okay, we're no longer friends with them. But the whole night I could feel stares coming from them. They would keep on looking at us and they would talk. And while they talked, they would look at us and just do things like that. And you could just feel the aggression coming from their side. We were 4 friends, 2 vehicles. I was the only girl. And the guy said, no, let's go. We're not staying. I said, fine, let's go. We got in the car There was no incident. There was no fight. There was no stairs. We just got in the car and we left because the guys said we are not here for trouble and they are here for trouble. We got in the car and we left. As we drove down the road, there was a traffic stop and we were pulled over, my friend and I. Two friends in front kept on going. We said, we will catch up with them. They can go. I phoned them and said, you can go. We'll catch up with you. They asked normal questions. Did you drink? We said no. Are you dicing? We said no, we're spectators. Put on your safety belts? No problem, safety belts. They checked everything, walked around the car, did the normal thing. They said you can go. And we left. As we drove down the highway, there was no lights. And I realized that there's a vehicle behind us, but our friends are already too far ahead. They can no longer see us. And I realized that the vehicle behind us is aggressively tailgating us. And they are shining their headlights onto us. And as I looked at my friend's face, I could see the reflection of the headlights shining on the mirror back onto his face. And the car just kept coming. He just kept on aggressively, with high speed, staying on our tails, like this. My friend looked at me and he said, I love you. And that is the last words that I heard. Before I could respond, our vehicle flipped and it rolled and it rolled and it rolled. It rolled 3 times. It fell on top of me, flung me one side, flung my friend the other side, and the vehicle another side. And as I laid there on the accident scene, I heard a voice. And I recognized the voice because I knew who was behind us. I knew their faces. I knew their names. I knew the car they drove. I knew where they stayed. And someone came to me and said, Ruanda, lie still. You were in an accident. Two people in that car behind us. One came to me, lie still, you were in an accident, calling me by name. I recognized him. The other one, the driver, yelled, let them flip and die. And they left. They left me on the accident scene. They got in their car and they fled. And they left me there. They left me there. They left my friend there. A little bit later, other people arrived on the accident scene. Instead of helping me, they went through the wreckage and they stole wallets, they stole ID books, they stole handbags. They took everything that they could find for their own financial gain. And once again, they left me there, lying in a ditch filled with rainwater. They did not help me. When paramedics arrived, they helped my friend. He was visible. They helped him and he was flown to a hospital. And he was stabilized and he was flown to hospital. However, because there was no identifying items on the accident scene, there was no way for anybody to know there's a second victim. There was no wallet. If there had maybe been a wallet or an ID book, maybe a handbag, they would have searched for a second victim. But there was nothing. Third time I was left on the accident scene, forgotten. 2 hours after the accident, some of the tow truck drivers, the crew who cleans the road and the wreckage, came to clear the wreckage. And meters away, they spotted a piece of wreckage, metal wreckage. And when they got there, they found me. And that is the first time that someone made a call to say, we need help. And the ambulance came. They picked me up. By then, I had lost a lot of blood. A lot. I had 4 open wound fractures on my head. My skull was open, including my face. I had a broken neck. I had a broken vertebra on top, T1, T3. I had a broken L1 vertebra. I had a broken hip, broken pelvis, broken pubic bones, dislocated knee, and a severed foot. Broken arms and collapsed lungs. When they transported me, they had my leg in the one hand and my foot in the other hand, because it was attached just by a little piece of skin. They transported me to the nearest hospital, and unfortunately, the hospital was not equipped to deal with such a severe patient. There was also no doctors to treat me. 2 hours after I was transported, the paramedic that took me there came back to the hospital because he wanted to ask my parents, how am I doing? And he found me laying on the same stretcher. 2 hours later, he took my vitals and he told my parents I have 15 minutes to live, that I will not survive my injuries. My parents put me back in the ambulance, transported me to the nearest private hospital. At the nearest private hospital, the doctors needed a deposit, a large deposit, because my injuries, the estimate was it's more than $1 million, and they needed a deposit before they can start working on me. My parents started to get the deposit together, but the doctors told my parents that this is a business. We need a deposit, otherwise we cannot work on your daughter. And they did not work on me. They told my parents to stop worrying about money. Leave the deposit and spend time with me, because I'm dying. I will not survive my injuries. Even if they get the money, I will not survive. My parents refused the statement. By 1 o'clock the next afternoon, my parents had to make a decision. They could not get enough money to satisfy the hospital. I have not been worked on. It is 12 hours since the accident. Left there 3 times, been to 2 hospitals, been left. So my parents said they'll take me to Grooteskuur, which is an excellent hospital. They've got professors, doctors, young medical doctors. The only problem was I was not stabilized and I was not going to make the drive. It was a 45-minute drive and I was not going to survive it. My parents said, well, she's in one of the best private hospitals and she's dying. Or we can transport her and she might die. The odds are the same. My parents called back the paramedics. They started praying over me. And I was transported to Grooteskuur Hospital. While I was in these 2 hospitals, the 2 hospitals that did not treat me, I regained consciousness and I told my parents, this vehicle was behind us. These 2 people were in it. This is the name of the one, this is the name of the other one, this is their ages and this is where they stay. I don't remember it. But that's what I told them. And I lost consciousness again. That's the first time I exposed them. On my way to Grooteskuur. Terrible, terrible drive. I remember parts of it. Very painful. But just as soon as I got to Grooteskuur and they pushed me through the doors, I died. I stopped breathing and my heart stopped beating. I made the drive by 4 minutes. And then I died. At Grooteskuur, they had doctors, they had machines, they had equipment. And I was put on life support, and lung machines, and heart machines, and I was given blood, because I'd lost all my blood. I was given blood, and I was put in the induced coma. Once again, they thought I might not make it. While I was in this induced coma, I tried to take out my tube the whole time. I was very agitated. And there was a time that I did actually get it out. And I told my parents, this car was behind us. These 2 guys was driving. This is his name, this is his name, this is the agent, this is where they stay. I went on again. And I stayed in ICU. While I was in ICU, I didn't understand what was going on with me. I would see people dying. I would look to my left, and I can't forget what they look like. And I would see people die. And I would know that if I close my eyes now, it might be me as well. Because I don't understand what's going on. Because I'm a baby. I'm 18 years old. When the doctors thought it was okay, they brought me out of the induced coma. And I survived. I survived those hours and those weeks. And a policeman showed up at the hospital. And he asked me what happened. And I told him, this car was behind us, this is the color, this is what it looks like, this is the drivers, this is the name, and this is where they stay. And I trusted them. believed that they would do something about it. Soon after, my parents and my doctors came to me and they told me that my friend passed away. 1:00 that afternoon, when I got into the ambulance, that's when my mom got a call. He just passed away. He didn't survive his injuries. If you can take a heart and you can put it through a shredder, you'll understand what I felt at that stage. Because I did not want to be the miracle. I did not want to be the one who survives. I did not want to be the one who has to stand up and say, this is what happened. This is what was done to us. And I had to do it alone. And I'm 18 years old. I did not want to be God's miracle. I did not want to survive. Soon thereafter, I had to start working on myself. Because now I have a broken body. Now I survived. Everybody's happy. I survived. But the quality of my life would never be the same again. The doctors told me I would never walk again. I would never have children. I am unemployable. So thinking I'm 18, I'm going into this world, I'm going to work, never happened. Because I was told I'm unemployable. And I remember that doctor telling me, you will never walk. You broke this and this and this. You have a broken neck. You have a broken back. You have a broken hip. And I told that doctor, if you knew the God I serve, you would not speak that. If you can comprehend the God I serve, you would never speak that. Because what that doctor did not know is, while I was on that accident scene, abandoned by friends, abandoned by robbers, abandoned by paramedics, God showed up. And He took me from there. And He took me to heaven. That whole time that I was lying there, dying, God took me and He sheltered me. He put me on a bed. It's not even a bed. It's something fluffy, but it feels like a bed. And He put me there. And I knew in my head, I'm in heaven. But I didn't die, because everything is still going on down there. So I'm in heaven, but I'm not dead. And then I'm thinking to myself while I'm lying there in heaven, but my back is supposed to hurt, because I broke my back and I broke my neck. But as I'm lying there, I'm able to move my neck. And as far as I look, all I can see is pearly white. There's no walls. There's no matter. There's no space. It's just pearly white. And I'm lying there. No pain, no fear, no anxiety. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm supposed to be suffocating. My lungs collapsed. I'm lying in a pool of rainwater in a ditch. I'm supposed to be suffocating. But in heaven, I had enough breath. I could breathe freely. So not only was I not in pain, I was also breathing. And around me was God and His angels. The only thing I was not allowed to do at that stage is I was not allowed to get up. Everything else grace was given to me. Because I knew I was just deserted. I knew by who. I knew I was just left there. And God's grace took me out of that situation, and He sheltered me. And He breathed breath into me. For 12 hours, I was not helped. For 12 hours, God kept me alive. He kept me alive long enough so that I can reach Groote Schuur Hospital where they can put me on life support. For 12 hours, I was kept alive. For 12 hours, I was kept calm. And for 12 hours, I was kept without pain. Even knowing that I was deserted, but still the feelings in heaven, I was not angry. There's no anger in heaven. There's no hate in heaven. Oh, I hate you. How could you leave me there? There's only love. How can you sit in heaven, know you were abandoned, and then still feel love for them? That's what God feels for us. Because in heaven, I only experienced love, peace, and joy. The whole time. The doctor said that if I can walk, I can go home. And this was sarcastic. Because they've told me over and over and over, you cannot walk. It's not possible. We can fix your hips, your pelvis, we can put your foot back onto your leg, it's fine, but we cannot fix your back. We cannot take your back, break it and fix it. Or take the broken back and operate and make it, we can't do that. So the doctor said, if I can walk, I can go home. And I knew. But in heaven, I had a normal body. In heaven, I didn't have pain. In heaven, I wasn't disabled. And I took that challenge. And I told him, if you operate on my hips, then you leave the rest to me and God. 3 days after my hip operation, I took crutches. And I walked to that doctor. And I tapped him on his shoulder. And I told him, I want to go home. You said, if I can walk, I can go home. Everybody, all the nurses, all the academic doctors, everybody started running, screaming, what are you doing? And the doctor, my surgeon, my professor just looked at me, white in his face, mute, not saying anything. He just kept staring at me. And the whole hospital was running around us. Not long after that, I signed myself out of hospital. Why? Because I could walk. I still had stitches, and my stitches were staples. I had stitches from here to here. I had staples at the bottom of my arm and the front. My face on both sides. My skull on both sides. My foot, where the foot and the leg was attached, still had my staples. But I took my crutches and I walked out of that hospital by God's grace. And when I left that hospital, I was labeled the 6th worst patient ever to be admitted and survive her injuries. And that is a label that still follows me today. After the accident, I faced many challenges and many operations and many procedures. Went back to the police station, told them, this is the people that were behind us, this is the car, this is the license plate. The officer got in the car with, I think I got in his van, yes, in his police van. I got in his van, I took him to the address, I said, yeah. It's 2 decades later, and nothing was done. People convinced me that I did not hear those voices, and those specific voices. For 20 years, people told me I cannot rely on my own memory. For 20 years, people tried to convince me that I did not lie on the accident scene for 2 hours without help. As soon as 3 years ago, someone said the same. You did not lie there for 2 hours. You were helped immediately. For 20 years, people tried to convince me that what I remember and what happened that night did not happen. But I had nightmares. I was the one wetting my bed, being a young adult, having nightmares, screaming, wetting my bed. It wasn't them. I was abandoned. For 20 years, I kept silent, telling my testimony, but making sure there's no video recordings, because I had survivor's guilt. Because what if I hurt somebody else? Because somebody's child died. Now I have to stay quiet. And I stayed quiet because I had survivor's guilt. For 20 years, police, ambulance drivers, and friends of friends of friends tried to convince me that nothing happened. And tonight is the night that I stand up and I speak my truth, because I know what God did for me. I know He protected me. I know He saved my life. And I know, even though I was abandoned and rejected by people that were supposed to help me, I was not abandoned by God, and I was not rejected, because God is the only one who showed up that night. And that's my story. That is what happened to me. Abandoned. Left to die by friends and professionals. And saved by God.